You are good.
Good evening. The meeting will come to order. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Harris? Here. Mr. Melody?
Here.
Mr. Weininger?
Here.
Mrs. May?
Here.
And Mr. Valentine.
Here. Mr. Harris, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Approval of the regular minutes for the December 14th, 2020 regular meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Melody. Questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Approval of the organizational regular minutes for the January 7th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Harris. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Melody. Questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Approval of the special board minutes for the January 11th, 2021 special meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Approval of the regular work session minutes for the January 20th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Harris. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Melody. Questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. There will be executive session on the tail end of the meeting with no action afterwards. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Melody,
Yes.
Mr. Weininger,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Awards and recognitions, Dr. Hoadley.
All right, thank you, Mr. Valentine. Let me welcome everyone here to tonight's meeting, and it's great to be back in face-to-face, not just so we can see each other, but so we can actually see those that are being honored at for receiving various awards here. I'm going to turn it over to Doug Baker, and we're returning tonight to face-to-face Golden Shamrock. So let's start off with that, Doug.
Thank you, Dr. Hoadley. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the board. As Dr. Hoadley mentioned, this is our first in-person Golden Shamrock in more than a year. So we're excited, and I'm excited to introduce Ed Panaki. Ed, if you want to join me. Ed Panaki is the founder of this program in 1990. He's from Monarch Financial, and we haven't seen him in a while, so I'm glad he is back. Our first Golden Shamrock tonight is going to be presented by Julie Blevins, Emerald Campus Administrator. So I'd ask Julie and her winner to come up to the podium.
All right, tonight we would like to honor Christy Andrews. She is one of the teachers here at Emerald Campus, and she is the starter developer of our teacher academy. She has been with the district for 26 years, and sometimes the teachers make it through, and you're surprised that she hasn't received this award by now, and she is definitely one of those teachers. Unanimously, there were many people that wanted to have Christy receive this award. Several of her current students as well nominated her, and past students that have graduated and are on in the teaching profession or even back in our district. I wanted to read a few of those comments that were provided from her colleagues. She is a perfect example for future teachers going through the DTA program to see how great teachers can be with collaborating, communicating, never-ending support, and love. She brings her whole heart to everything she does and is a daily inspiration to us all. She is a cheerleader, a thought provoker, a mentor, a confidant, and a friend. She meets students' educational needs, challenges them, and prioritizes their social-emotional needs. She treats them as humans first and students second. She collaborates and works tirelessly with teachers in every building at every level across our district to develop our future teachers. Several of her students that nominated her said she was part of the reason I decided to go into education and become a teacher myself. I learned so much from her and was far ahead of the curve once I got to college. It is evident that she pours her heart and soul into teaching, and that has stuck with me on how to be a great educator. Because of these wonderful opportunities that she provides, again, you can look in many of our classrooms, and we have several DTA teachers that want to come back and work in this district, and we attribute that to Christy Andrews.
Thank you, Julie. I'm humbled and honored to be chosen for this award. DTA started with a conversation and then an invitation to lead by my then principal and mentor, Marina Davis. And what a ride it's been ever since. I'm most honored by the statement that said that I treated my students as human first and students second. And honestly, I didn't know there was any other way. I learned from my late husband, Dave, to always treat everyone as if they're your favorite. I share this learning with my future teachers. And they always kind of look at me, and I always say, you want them to feel that way, but they're not all going to be your favorite, but they shouldn't know it. They shouldn't know it. I love teaching teenagers, and I feel great responsibility in doing so. None of what I do would be possible without an amazing tribe of people that surround me and support me. My mom has always said a person who is appreciated will do much more than expected. and I'm grateful for my upbringing. And I'm grateful for my colleagues of this amazing district, all my friends, my 3 girls, and I thank you all so, so much. Thank you. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second Golden Shamrock tonight will be presented by Bob Scott, who's the principal at Dublin Scioto High School.
Thank you, Dr. Hoadley. Board members, thank you. And especially Ed, thank you for doing this for all these many years. There are so many things about being the principal at Scioto that are exciting, but coming to the board meeting and giving a Golden Shamrock to somebody like Patrick Elias is way up there. And it's so much fun because it's like we're having an Irish night here with Christy as a winner and Julie. So I remember working with Christy, and she's so deserving of this award. But we're here to talk about Patrick. And about 4 years ago, we lost one of our guidance counselors who was going to take a position down in Florida. And it was funny. Everybody kept rolling into my office soon thereafter, talking about this guy by the name of Pat Elias and how you need to call him. He's down in South Carolina. He may come back. And then 15 minutes later, in came another person talking about Pat Elias, Pat Elias, Pat Elias. I had no idea who he was. But all of the people in the building that knew him, he kind of shot right in that gap of the 9 years I wasn't there, and made a huge impression. And so we got him on the phone, and sure enough, one thing led to another, and he showed up. And to say that he's an all-star would be selling it short. He loves his kids. He loves his caseload. He makes every single kid feel like they're his favorite. And they literally walk out of there thinking that they are. It is not taken long for him to jump in and in just 4 short years receive the Golden Shamrock, and that's well-deserved because of the kind of person he is. Even in a pandemic, he found a way to find a beautiful, brand-new wife as they just got married here in October. So this guy can turn a pandemic into a celebration. So if you're wondering how amazing he is, that's it in a nutshell. But he goes above and beyond. And I'll just read one sentence out of this parent email of somebody who came to our district brand new, and he had remembered from the time they came to tour to the time that school started, which was 4 or 5 months later. And it says, Mr. Elias answers emails, phone calls so quickly, I question whether he leaves his office. He continues to be attentive as we navigate this remote learning academy. We couldn't be happier with Mr. Elias, his assistants, and we're very thankful for all that he does. So there's nobody better, and we're thrilled that we've got him and that we stole him from South Carolina, and he's not going anywhere. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Patrick Elias.
Board, Ed, thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. As Mr. Scott said, my lovely wife being here. And as he came into my office to completely shock me with this, you know, it takes me back to so many people it's been about 15 years now that I've had something to do with Dublin City Schools in one way or another. And I remember so many people who have gotten this award, so many people who have just been mentors to me that I've looked up to. And I've always, in my heart, kind of said, if I can have half of the impact of those people, then I know that I'm doing something right. And there's something that all of them had in common, and the first thing was it wasn't about them. Every single one of them loves their children. Every single one of them loves their families. They would do anything for their kids. And the second thing was that they were always surrounded by incredible people, be it their departments, be it their administration, be it their lovely wives at home, husbands at home. I told my parents about this, and they were like, "We're coming." And I said, no, you guys can't come. So, hi, Mom and Dad, if you're watching online. But I look at that as a blessing. We get to work in Dublin City Schools. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's a tough time, I think, for everybody. I think about our young people, and I can't imagine what it would be like to be in school in this season. But to know that we have people that are willing to come around them as teachers, as administrators, as board members, as our district office, it makes me feel a little bit better to know that, you know, we're just surrounded by these people. And so I laugh because this award is, certainly I don't feel like I deserve it. I look around at so many people who do incredible things every single day and go, what about them? But the truth is that doesn't happen for us, for Christy and I, unless we have those people around us every day. And so we're thankful for that. We're thankful for the calling that we've been given. You know, we know that we're here to love God and love people. And I think that we get a chance to do that every single day, especially at Dublin City High School. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. And God bless.
Jill, it looked like you avoided that picture.
I tried not to get you in a Jill. So we're going to transition now to Kim Miller-Smith, of the Ohio School Boards Association. She's the Central Ohio Regional Manager, and she has 3 very special awards to present this evening. So I'm going to turn it over to her. Kim Miller-Smith from OSBA.
Make sure these don't fall off here. Well, greetings from the Ohio School Boards Association, and thank you for allowing me to participate in your meeting this evening. It really is a pleasure to be with you. The Central Region is one of 5 OSBA regions, and it serves 14 Central Ohio counties and 103 public school districts. The region, as you all are well aware, sponsors a fall and a spring conference, and we recognize the achievements of school districts, board members, teachers, community members, district employees, and we support state and regional success through a system of committees. But tonight I am here on behalf of the Ohio School Boards Association Central Region to recognize the service of district employee Ms. Kim Atherton as an exemplary school employee and Dr. Stephen Kirby as the district's friend of public education. In nominating Ms. Atherton for this award, the Dublin Board of Education wrote, Kim Atherton is Dublin City Schools' lead nurse and incredibly deserving of the Ohio School Boards Association Central Region Exemplary School Employee Award. During these unprecedented and challenging times, Kim has played a vital role in keeping our students and our staff safe and keeping our community informed. She has no boundaries when it comes to her time and effort. Kim puts in extra hours as needed each week. During this pandemic, Kim has taken the lead in communicating with Franklin County Public Health. She has led our nursing team since July, and as they work through contact tracing, working with building administrators on proper COVID-19 protocols. These committees, of which Kim is an integral member, are helping the district oversee data and metrics to identify and track performance indicators to be used by the school board to determine how to transition students. Protocols to establish and refine, like temperature checks and symptom screening, extracurricular activities, wellness and mental health, community education to help inform the district's families about medical information from the county. Kim is a member of the Immunization Council of Central Ohio and serves on several state level and national organizations. This fall, she has been a very important member of the district's COVID-19 committees. In this role, she is giving countless hours of her time and expertise to Dublin City Schools free of charge. Often, she is participating in hours-long meetings at night, up to 3 nights per week, including Sunday nights. Kim has been the district's lead nurse for the past 7 years, with 12 years' experience overall in hospital administration, ER, surgery, obstetrics, and telemetry. During that time, her leadership has been instrumental in keeping our students safe. She is responsible for developing and implementing our Board of Education policies around medical issues. Kim helped bring our online health registration to the district. She and other nurses continually suggest changes to our medical program that have been implemented district-wide, including a free flu shot program for our students. Last school year alone, she coordinated the administration of more than 2,500 flu shots for students and staff. Kim is an RN, first receiving licensure in 1994. She has an associate's degree in nursing from Marion Technical College and a baccalaureate degree in nursing from The Ohio State University. In addition to her role as lead nurse, she has served as a volleyball, track, and softball coach during her career. It is a great pleasure to present to Kim Atherton the 2020 Exemplary School Award.
Well, I'm not much of an educator, so I don't do a great job speaking in public. So I just really will keep this short, and I just want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart, because truly I'm honored to be here, but most importantly, I accept this award on behalf of my entire team, because honestly, I feel it doesn't feel great being up here without them, because they have been so important in everything that we've done, from the clinic aides to Chris and Mike, our leaders, and then of course the nursing team that I work on that has put in just as many hours as I have, and I'm so grateful to be a part of that team. So thank you all very much from the bottom of my heart. I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you.
Let's go over here so we don't get Joe. Thank you.
And in nominating Dr. Stephen Kirby for the Friend of Public Education Award, the board wrote, get that one, juggling a lot of papers tonight. Dr. Stephen Kirby has spent countless hours volunteering on behalf of the Dublin City Schools COVID-19 medical committees. This fall, the Data and Metrics Committee is one of five committees comprised of more than 30 local physicians providing the district with important advice regarding the global pandemic. Dr. Kirby has been a leader amongst leaders this fall, serving on the steering committee and is the lead doctor on the district's Data and Metrics Committee. In this role, he is giving countless hours of his time and expertise to Dublin City Schools free of charge. Often he is participating in hours-long meetings at night, up to 3 nights per week, such as we said before, including Sunday nights. These committees that Dr. Kirby helps to lead are helping the district oversee the data and the metrics to identify and track performance indicators to be used by the school board to determine how to transition students from 25% in-classroom model to the hybrid model. Protocols to establish and refine, like temperature checks and symptom screenings, extracurricular activities, wellness and mental health, community education to help inform the district's families about medical information from the county. Dr. Kirby is the clinical director of the lung and heart transplant programs at Nationwide Children's Hospital and an associate professor of internal medicine and pediatrics at The Ohio State University College of Medicine. Dr. Kirby graduated from Penn State University College of Medicine. He completed his residency training in internal medicine and pediatrics at The Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center and Nationwide's Children's Hospital. He then completed fellowship training in adult pulmonary critical care medicine and pediatric pulmonary medicine. He is board certified in internal medicine, pediatrics, adult pulmonary medicine, critical care medicine, and pediatric pulmonary medicine. Dr. Kirby's current areas of research focus on mechanisms of disease, pathogenesis, and cystic fibrosis, and clinical outcomes following lung transplantation. His main clinical interests include CF and other congenital lung diseases, lung transplantation, treatment of unusual pulmonary infections, and critical care medicine. Dr. Kirby is also a Dublin City Schools parent with children at Bailey Elementary School and Dublin Kaufman High School. We believe Dr. Kirby is an outstanding candidate for the Ohio School Board's Central Region Friend of Public Education Award. It is an honor, Dr. Kirby, to recognize you as Dublin's Friend of Public Education.
Members of the board, Dr. Hoadley, thank you very much. I'm truly honored by this. It's great seeing so many of you in person. We've spent hours and hours over Zoom over these last many months. This pandemic has certainly brought incredible challenges, but I would say one of the professional highlights in my career has been this opportunity to work with so many great leaders here for our schools. As a parent, I'm very thankful for that, but also an opportunity to meet many people involved with district operations, a chance to work with Donna O'Connor, our teachers. And I lastly just want to say I'm truly honored by this, but there are over 30 members of our medical data committees and other committees that were mentioned, not just physicians, nurses, PhD researchers, everyone volunteering their time with a common goal of trying to figure out the best way, the safest way to navigate this pandemic. So I just want to say thank you very much. It's an honor, but again, I really am accepting this really on behalf of everyone who's volunteered on these COVID committees. Thank you.
We thank Kim and Stephen for their varied and distinguished service to public education and for their commitment to the students and the families of the Dublin City Schools. And I also always want to thank all of the board members and administrators, leaders who are here in this room for your willingness to serve your school district and your community. It's because of efforts such as yours that we enjoy strong public schools in Ohio. And finally tonight, on behalf of the Ohio School Board Association, I have been asked to recognize and to come to recognize Stu Harris for his service to the Ohio School Board Association Board of Trustees and its Executive Committee. The Ohio School Board Association and the OSBA Board of Trustees has the general charge of the affairs, funds, and property of the association and its full power to carry out the purposes of the association according to the OSBA Constitution. Mr. Harris has served in several positions in OSBA and the Central Region Executive Committee. Stu, thank you for your service, and you need to come forward.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thank
You're
you very
very
much,
welcome.
Kim. I appreciate it. It's a privilege to be a part of this organization, the Ohio School Board Association. You meet so many great people. You get to attend all these exciting events and learn so much. So thank you very much. Could I have one with Jill in it, too?
You may have that covered, Mr. Harrison. There we go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I have the box in that. I'll leave it with.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to COVID-19 discussion. Dr. Hoadley, before you get in, one thing I wanted to make sure we mention, especially in light of Dr. Kirkby and Ms. Atherton walking out, they're putting in a large amount of time, and we've gotten some questions from members of the community as to why we have not had the medical professionals on our committee, our meeting calls or at our meetings as much often. And the front end of that is quite simply, especially during December and January, many of them were putting in long hours away from their families, and we wanted to honor and respect their time. They've been heavily involved in shaping the direction of the district and the advice that we're receiving. But in addition, even in a case like tonight, I know Dr. Kirkby's running out the door trying to make fifth grade basketball practice with his son. So we are extremely thankful for their time, their commitment, and all they continue to do to assist us. So with that said, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Valentine. Let me I want to provide an update tonight. I want to try to answer any questions you may have. If there's any questions I cannot answer, we'll capture those for one of our medical data committees to circle back on. And then I do have a resolution for your consideration at the end of our COVID-19 discussion. But let me start by saying last week was a major week for Dublin City Schools, and that was simply a large percentage, we don't know what that percentage is, but a large percentage of our staff was able to be vaccinated. If you recall previously, our preschool and our SLC teachers were able to be vaccinated under Tier 1A. They will actually receive their second vaccination this week, I believe. But it'll be a 3 weeks until the rest of our staff will be vaccinated. I want to really thank our staff for their patience, their perseverance. Again, that was all of our Dublin City School employees who were eligible. Not everyone, again, took that opportunity to be vaccinated. I do want to say thank you to Kroger and thank you to Hilliard Schools and Reynoldsburg Schools. The operational logistics of vaccinating probably 16,000, 17,000 people, and it was just, other than the website issue to start off, it was really good. We feel we had a high percentage of our people go through that. With that being said, and I'm going to talk about the resolution a little later, we are worried about the second round and people perhaps not feeling well on that second round. So I have a resolution for your consideration around that. We have been extremely fortunate over the last 3 to 4 weeks to watch our overall district COVID data really decline. We're at an all-time low for 2021 right now, and almost back to September, October rates as far as COVID in our school district. By that, you can see on our dashboard, we currently have 7 staff members COVID positive and 11 in quarantine. It is a little crazy. I remember back in August when we had our first or second, it was so disconcerting. But now we feel so much better around 7. So, things have just shifted so hard. We have 39 students COVID positive. We have 121 who are in quarantine right now. So that 178 total, again, is a low for January. And again, just much different than where we were as a school system, much different than where we were as a community in November and December. So again, the data is really trending in a much better direction. That's really through everyone's hard work, the mitigation strategies inside the school, but moreover, just the efforts of everyone outside of school. The vast majority of infections and quarantines are from exposures happening outside of school. And I want to repeat that again, because it's like a super high percent, like upper 90s. The vast majority of infections and the vast majority of quarantines are happening because of exposures outside of our school district. Again, our data points where I mentioned our 14-day low average, teacher absences, student averages, all trending in a very positive direction. Mr. Marsh will share our fill rate for daily absences. We're at 99 or 100% every day since we've returned. So that's been a real positive. Gail, thanks to you and your team for getting a lot of permanent substitutes, if you will, to cover for that. But again, hard work by our teachers, pre-K through 12, teaching not just our curriculum, but the mitigation strategies. Again, we're doing the survey each day. That's now been transitioned completely over to Ohio State. Scott Gill has been working hard on that transition. So Scott, thank you for all of your efforts. Another member of our data committee, and she stepped off for a while now, but Dr. Heather Tubbs-Cooley is the one that created that survey. And now that survey that started here in Dublin is available to districts all across central Ohio. So again, the learning and the benefits that we have from our committees is really extrapolating out across. We still have a ways to go. We know that hand hygiene from survey results is an opportunity. We continue to look for ways to use that data and leverage to get better each and every day, because by getting better, we keep our students and we keep our staff safer. But again, tremendous learning since this pandemic started. on the data metrics. I know several of you sit in on those meetings or listen in on those meetings. We've looked at research studies. We've had statistics explained to us by some of the members on there that has been very helpful. We know the local learning has been off the charts. And again, I want to just reemphasize our local data seems to be improving every single day. That's not happening by accident in a pandemic. That's happening through hard work by many, many people just working together, wearing these face masks, keeping each other safe. Because of what I've shared to date, I want to just, for our community, for our board, the conversation is starting to move into the category of what comes next. Things are improving. While we have a way to go, we have vaccinations taking place, round 1, round 2 in the future going to occur. And so, again, this discussion about the potential change for an instructional model is something that is the next, I think, conversation for you as a board to have. As you know, I have the ability to pull back into a more restrictive model. Only you as a board will be able to take us from our current hybrid up into the potential of a full-in return. You know, our data metrics committee, which meets every Thursday night, in their latest recommendations, they pointed toward a mid-March date for the alignment of potential vaccination full in, as well as the continuation of the positive trend, hopefully, of our data. So we've taken that mid-March date, kind of circled it on the calendar in pencil, and we've started to now ask our principals to do that important work about identifying what obstacles would be in the way. We are certainly concerned about lunches because that's when these masks come off, and that's where this is one of our main mitigation strategies. So we really want to make sure that when masks come off, that social distancing is at a minimum of 6 feet. And that may take some creativity, that may take some planning. But again, we're circling that date in March in pencil, and we're in early February right now. So we have the gift of time for planning, and we are asking all of our principals to utilize that gift of time. We actually met with our high school lead principals a week ago Monday, asked them to start this planning process. We're continuing that discussion with middle school, with elementary principals. Again, we want to learn from the comments on our mitigation survey strategy, because in summary, as I conclude my comments here and open this up for questions, again, our goal is to get kids back full in. Now that, again, doesn't mean the RLA students. The RLA parents have opted for the entire semester into RLA. But our goal is to get as back to normal of instruction as we possibly can in the safest manner possible. So we need to look at the data, we need to identify those obstacles, and do what it takes to be able to put you as a Board of Education in a position of confidence that when you consider that recommendation to full in, that you feel like everything is there in the protection of our staff and in the protection of our students here. So again, that vaccination, the data, all those obstacles, the planning phase in place right now. And we'll just continue to work with our medical doctors because unique aspects of this come up each and every day. So just tonight, our athletic team, our athletic committee met. They talked about, double masking, and that was a big conversation tonight. So every day we learn something new, but rather than continue to talk about this, let's open it up to questions and see what you may have as far as questions with, again, a recommendation on the agenda tonight for your consideration to move us into remote for 3 days and back to hybrid after or during the second round of our educator vaccination process. What questions do you have about COVID?
Todd, and I think Chris, before we get into the bigger picture discussion, how are we handling or covering the folks who are getting their second round this week, especially since that is a very niche position, or positions, I should say?
So Gail and the HR team have been fantastic about allocating extra subs and individuals over to the Early Childhood Center. That's definitely a major focus because a lot of the individuals over there will be leaving and getting vaccinated. Others are, again, thanks to Gail and the HR team for just providing subs across the building. Our teachers are working with our administrators so they know when and where, and we think we've got a pretty good plan for those people that are going to go this week. Again, it's a couple hundred people that are going over this entire week, as opposed to maybe a couple thousand people that were just a few days at the end of the month. So we think we've got it covered. It won't be easy, but we're excited to see how the rest of the week goes for them.
And as a quick follow-up to that, as we look at those 3 days, what exactly, in terms of the education side of things, does that look like for both our teachers and I guess our families?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we put remote, and remote can mean a lot of different things. We actually are tasking our principals to come up with what that looks like. It doesn't mean, well, let me preface. During that time that we would be in remote, our preschool would still be in operation. Our SLCs would still be in operation. We need to be able to continue to offer services from our children on IEP, so that would still be. But we've tasked our principals to come up with a recommendation by the end of this week so that we can announce to staff and community, what does that look like? Does it mean working from home? Does it mean working from the building? You know, how does it work? Is it normal remote like we were back in early January and December for high school or middle school, or does it look somewhat different? So we really want to take that down to the principal level and get a recommendation from them this Friday so that we can finalize the answer to that important question by Tuesday of next week. And I say Tuesday only because Monday being President's Day is a day off. Gil, any comments you want to make on that? I know you've been part of those discussions, and I think, Tracy, you may have been part of the discussions directly with the principals this afternoon.
Yeah, Dr. Deagle, why don't you go ahead? We met today. Dr. Deagle is leading a team of myself, a principal from each level, to talk about what that means and what are the unique needs of each of the levels. So felt really good about that conversation, and feel like we'll be in a good place. But we do need some additional discussion to be able to, on the academic side, Tracy leading that work, what does that look like, and also on the operational side and staffing. So what are the expectations, and make sure we're clear to our staff about what the expectations are on those days.
Thank you. I don't want to be the only one to ask questions. I know others have some, so jump in.
All right, so I'll jump in here. I would say that back in, obviously in the fall, I voted against full in return and going in that direction. At that time, I did have, I'll say, two main concerns. One was the validity and accuracy of the data and the metrics being reported. And the other one was the safety of students and staff. I will say at this point in time, I feel the district and all the committees have done a great job with collecting the data and reporting the data, and I have a good understanding of where the data is coming from and the accuracy behind it at this point in time. I would still have some concerns operationally going forward with full in on how we're going to ensure mainly the social distancing, as you touched on with like in lunchrooms, how we ensure that people can maintain that 6-foot distancing. And then even when they are in the classroom, how we maintain distancing, social distancing with masks on, both between the teacher and students to ensure safety of everyone. So we'd like to continue to have that documented as we go into these next couple of weeks and have a well laid out plan that we can communicate to the community and how we're going to achieve some of those goals. I think that will be important to get that level of understanding for everyone, from busing to lunches to classrooms. You know, can we shift the RLA teachers to different locations and use those empty classrooms for socially distancing for learning or for lunches, or I think we need to get creative.
Totally agree, and that's what we've tasked our principals is to get creative, not let dollars get in the way. We've got some CARES Act dollars that we've talked about in utilization for that. And I do just want to share also, lunch is the biggest time where these masks come off, and we've got to really make sure that there's a minimum of 6 feet. In the classroom, there's not going to be an opportunity to have 6 feet. We're operating more on the 3 feet expectation at that level, knowing that that's not perfect. 6 feet is the gold standard. But with masks, that's the best we can do in a classroom setting for most of the situation. We'll find sometimes even with that, we'll find the ability to do 6. Chris, any comments on that from the standpoint of, I know our SLCs are going to be in. Preschool, you're feeling okay with from that standpoint as well?
Yeah, I do. I feel very comfortable with a lot of the mitigation things that we talked about. Mr. Melody is on our protocol committee, and we get to talk a lot about those. But I do think the principals, they have a big job to do over the next few days and weeks to try to make sure we creatively use as much space in the building as possible. So that'll be a big work.
I think the other thing just to throw out there this week, and it's been mentioned within the committees, and I think at least some of the emails we've had, CDC's supposed to be coming out with additional guidance this week as it relates to schools. So I imagine hopefully that's before Thursday with the data committee so that it can be a part of that discussion. But nonetheless, we'll learn more beyond hopefully just a quip at a press conference.
And then I do have one other question or comment. With the proposed resolution here of going remote learning the 24th through the 26th, has there been any consideration or talk about, I'll say, shifting spring break or condensing spring break and just having those 3 days being entirely off and then filling them in on the calendar later, either over spring break or somewhere else on the calendar to make up for those days to get a better learning mode?
Yeah, we really have not had that conversation about changing spring break. I will say I understand the value of the conversation for that. I think just the value of, I'm going to say candidly, some R&R over spring break is going to be needed as well for our faculty and staff. We have to keep in mind on those 3 days, and it's like some of our people will get vaccinated the Saturday on the 27th, some Friday night. And so a good number of our people are outside what I'll say the major times where we're worried about it, but we do know that we could easily run short on staff the 24th and the 25th. So we haven't got into the spring break at all. Rather just almost like focus on this window and then get back to hybrid, and with our main focus right now being the potential full in later on.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing that I might note regarding the 3 days in February that we're taking off, while we have maybe 1,000 to 2,000 people that are getting a second shot, we have to remember that in Central Ohio, as Todd said in his opening description, there were 15 to 17,000 shots at just our locations, and there are other locations as well. So, our subs, we do have some that are in the district, but we also depend on the ESC, which is providing subs to everyone. So it's very possible that we could run short because all the school districts are going through the same thing that we're doing right now, or on those days. So we have to remember that we live in the context of a greater surrounding area with regard to the second shot situation.
Looking ahead from a planning standpoint, we went down the road of obviously looking at full return previously, and a lot of people in this room did a lot of work in the lead up to that to unfortunately have us pull back due to the situation within the community and schools. But how far, especially at the elementary school and the middle school level, what do we see as our biggest challenges beyond lunch type situation? And I know the answer for many of these, but I think it would be helpful for the community to know some of the things that you guys are really going through on the logistics and operations side.
I think lunch and busing, busing especially is one where Jeff will attest that our elementary buses tend to be full. We're running all the routes as we were last year, and you take off 5,000 RLA, you'd think it'd be less crowded, but so busing, social distance there. We also, just in the RLA model that we're using at the elementary and the middle school, we have teachers that do both. And so making sure we're scheduling appropriately around there. Those are a couple things that pop out for me. you know, it's just, we've been in, for the elementary, we've been in hybrid since, I want to say September. So we've got a routine. So part of this is also just pivoting into a different routine will be something as well. Jill and Tracy, from an academic standpoint, are there other things that you can think of that this move in the future to full in for K through 8, other things academically that want to make sure that we have out and we're thinking about tonight?
Well, one thing we're looking at is the related arts instructional delivery at the elementary school has looked very different because we've had to push related arts outside of the regular schedule. So to put them now back into a schedule and figure out what that looks like, Dr. Hoadley is right. The younger kids, K-5, are very used to a routine of those 3 hours of uninterrupted time instructionally in a small group. So it is a shift for them to something different. So the related arts team is working with Tyler and Lori Marple, Tyler Wolf to figure out what that's going to look like. So off the top of my head, I think that's an instructional implication for our elementary. I don't know if there's something
No,
else.
that's exactly right.
Not academically, but I have a question. Actually, probably it's for Jeff Stark. How are we with the ventilation upgrades? Because that's a big deal.
That's a good question. We now have MERV 13 filters throughout our entire district. As of early fall, we completed all of that. MERV 13, and we have even better than MERV 13 in some buildings, but the CDC recommends at least a MERV 13 filter at all sites to filter the air. So we not only have that, we have on special order more to come because we have it on a strict guideline on how to preventive maintenance, how to PM those. We also have, as members here, even at the Emerald campus could attest to, lots of fresh air coming into the buildings, which again, the CDC recommends. And the only time we curb a little bit of that fresh air is on really, really warm days because it brings in too much humidity, or unfortunately on very, very cold days. And it's the first time we started throttling back a little bit is like this cold snap we're seeing. But when you get 25, 30, we usually don't throttle that much back. It's down to the 10s. But we feel right now, according to the CDC, we are following all the guidance that there is.
Thank you. I was wondering about that.
What are we looking at in terms of the spacing once we get basically twice the number of kids into buildings? I realize that 6 feet may not be possible, but if we put double the number of kids in classrooms, how are we looking in terms of spacing? And are we able, at this point yet, to space them out differently?
Yeah, we'll have to use a different method, and it's, again, a goal for in classroom. We're trying to work around a 3 feet line. That's what I've given our principals as kind of the line to shoot for. If we could do more, great, but nothing less than 3. We run into some challenges around furniture because we've shifted to tables, we've shifted to something different than just what I'd call traditional desks, especially at the elementary level. So that causes problems that we need to work through as well. And again, for what I'm guessing 99.9% of our classrooms, 6 feet social distancing and full in is just not a combination that will work. Maybe you could do it in a choir or something like that where you have a massive amount of space to spread people out. But we're really looking at lunches as the place where 6 feet is the minimum because that's when masks will be coming off.
Do you have any follow-up to that? Any follow-up to that, Rick?
Not at this time.
Lynn, anything else on your end?
Nope, good, thanks.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Melody?
Just one other thought that came up when Rick was asking a question there. With the double the number of students in there, will we need to add additional support staff to be able to contact trace?
I don't know that that's come up.
I will be happy to ask the nurses. I think while they're a little bit nervous, They're also very seasoned at doing this work now, and we've got a couple extra people. One, Stephanie McDaniels, who's just fantastic. So
Yep.
I think it will be a challenge just moving forward and into it, but they're outstanding, as you heard, and you know.
Okay. And as Mr. Valentine stated, that the CDC may be changing the contact tracing guidelines for education, but it's just something to keep in mind as we move forward.
You know, we'll say, staying on that topic one moment longer, almost with a nosedive in the number of cases has been a real blessing from the contact tracing. Our nurses were working 7 days a week, and now that it's slowed down, that's a much needed respite for them after what's been a long journey so far.
Dr. Hartley, one last thing, just for, I think, the sake of the community. If you had to succinctly say where we are going right now and what the plan is, how would you address that?
Yeah, I think where we're going, we are definitely going in a direction of positivity, a reduction in the number of cases we're seeing in our community and in our school. And so therefore that brings the question to the table, is it warrant a change in the instructional model? And if so, how do we do that in a safe manner? And so that's the conversation that we are undertaking now here on February 8th, with a date circled in pencil of mid-March. So leveraging this gift of time, hoping that the data continues to show positivity or a positive direction. I guess positivity in COVID is probably the wrong term to use. And again, leveraging the time that we have and the expertise within the district to make all the decisions necessary and preparations necessary to achieve what has been our goal from the forefront, and that is to have our kids full into school in the safest manner possible.
I think on behalf of the board, as we go through this, obviously we all value the figuring out the operations and the logistical part of this, but I think without hesitation, I want to say what I've had in individual conversations, and that is we will continue to support however we need to the folks in this room and inside of our buildings in order to make this possible. And if additional resources are needed in order to do this safely and ensure that we're getting kids back in the classrooms, we will absolutely do that. One final note I wanted to make was as we continue down this road, and I think I saw Donna back there somewhere, but appreciate all the conversations that we are having and all that is involved in this process. Our teachers union and Donna has stepped up here, and over the past, 2 months or so, we've had some really constructive dialogue in order to figure out how to best move forward, how to tackle these mitigation strategies, and look forward to trying to find these solutions and getting kids back in the classroom here in March. Get kids back in the classroom full time, I should say. All right, there being no other comments, we'll get to the resolution. It's recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the attached resolution to temporarily adjust the Dublin City Schools learning mode for all students K through 12 to full remote learning for February 24th through 26th, 2021. Whereas the Dublin City School District staff members have the opportunity to receive their second dose of the COVID-19 vaccination on February 23rd to 27th, 2021. Whereas the medical data indicates the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine often produces more intense side effects, including, but not limited to, pain at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle pain, chills, nausea, joint pain, and fever. I feel like a commercial right now. Whereas physicians serving on the Dublin City Schools COVID-19 committees have advised the district to expect a much larger than normal staff absentee rate during the few days after the second dose of vaccine is administered to our staff. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Dublin City Schools will go into full remote learning mode from February 24th through 26th, 2021, and will return to hybrid learning mode on March 1st, 2021. Now, therefore, be it further resolved that exceptions will be made for some children with significant cognitive disabilities in our specialized learning centers. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Harris. Questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Public participation, doesn't look like anybody is signed up. Moving on, Board of Education comments, committee reports, anything to add? I know that we've moved, if you guys will probably touch on it, but go ahead, Rick.
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
Oh, just a quick note. This is for Brian. Could you adjust the people in the proper columns there? Because we changed a few of the committees this year, so if we could adjust those, that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Moving on to superintendent's reports.
All right, thank you again, Mr. Valentine. I just have one item, which is a first reading and does not require board action. But before I jump into that, a couple of just comments. I should have done this in January, but we were focusing on some other things. But I want to thank the Dublin Community Foundation. Back in December, I think I've written to you that every one of our employees in the district, just over 2,000 people, received a $10 gift card thank you from the Community Foundation. Again, all DCS personnel, that was teachers, administrators, cooks, custodians, bus drivers, everyone across the board, and that was locally funded. Those gift cards were all, again, funded by community donations, and they were for local community businesses, but really just a great gesture by the Community Foundation, by our community to thank the hard work of everybody associated with Dublin City Schools for the first semester. They realize it's been rough waters all the way through, and they just wanted to give a token of their appreciation. Harry Camdar is the executive director of that. Bob Fathman is another name that is very, very active, and he led a lot of the local fundraising. So it's remiss of me, and I didn't want to wait any longer, just to, again, recognize the Community Foundation and thank them for that wonderful set of gift cards for all of our Dublin City Schools employees. A second item as a board that I'd really like to have on your radar screen, Scott, you heard this at the BAC meeting last Tuesday. We were able to have Senator Stephanie Coonsey, Representative Beth Liston. But we need to really watch on the required state testing for all of our students as we head into this spring. On the January 31st Columbus Dispatch, there was an article really advocating for the full battery of standardized tests as needed so that we could gain data around the effects of this pandemic on learning for the students of Ohio. And, you know, we just had a rather lengthy discussion about the potential to move back to full in March, the middle of March potentially. And the last thing I want to see as superintendent, and I think I speak for all of our principals, all of our educators, teachers across the district, is to immediately bring kids back and then dive into a full battery of standardized tests. And so on the BAC call last week, I advocated for the position of, you know, let's figure out something different than just a full battery of tests for our students. Some of the standardized tests are federal, and so we would need a waiver from the federal U.S. Department of Education. That's being discussed right now. Also, you know, just the local piece, by that I mean state level, that's purely under our legislature's jurisdiction. So the annual ELA and math test, that's federal. Science and social studies, more local. And so I'm hopeful that we can continue this conversation and advocate for our kids, and we're not working hard to bring them back simply to set them down for a whole multiple weeks of standardized testing. I have no idea how we would convince our RLA students to come in and be a participant of that as well. And again, there are some requirements, some changes that would require federal intervention, but I think we all need to work together on using our common voice to advocate for our kids that we reduce that testing potential this spring. I'm very confident that our teachers who have been working with our students, where be it a very different environment this year, have a much better handle than a one-day standardized test to tell where our kids are at. We'll share in the future meeting our MAP testing at the elementary level. I think, Jill, you said earlier today we have about 2 weeks left in the window for that. We're hopeful and frankly expecting to see some pretty positive gains from the fall administration to the winter administration of MAP. That's a lot more valid than a one-day standardized test. So I just want that on your radar screen, and also ask if you'd have any questions, let me know, because I know as board members you interact with many of our state level elected officials, and it's important that we speak with a common voice around that very important topic. Then finally tonight, I'm recommending a first reading for 8 policy revisions. 7 of these policy revisions actually fall more in Mr. Kern and Mr. Stark's area around fiscal policy and purchasing. There is one policy, 8800, around religious ceremonies that would be more academic in nature. That policy is on the back of your recommendation memo. And that change is being driven by House Bill 164, which was passed toward the tail end of 2020, really around not being able to prohibit students from engaging in religious expression when completing homework assignments or other classroom assignments. That's the legal change. There were some restrictions about entering in some of these religious conversations outside of lunch or special activity periods. The legislature really widened that. So passage of policy or updating policy 8800 keeps us in line with the new requirements in House Bill 164. So happy to answer questions if you have them about either one or about House Bill or policy recommendation 8800. The fiscal and the policy, if you have some questions, probably Mr. Kerr and Mr. Stark are the better people to reach out to on that. Those are the items that I have tonight, not making any recommendations that would need a vote. What questions do you have? Hearing none, I thank you.
Treasurer's report.
Yes, this evening we just have 2 items on, 2 annual stuff that you see every year. One is the transfer request for the summer school fund. As you may be aware, we estimate every year up to $75,000 in the 5-year forecast. This year it's at $14,000. And there's an accounting of it that was provided to you of this past summer school year. And also we have approval of amended resolution accepting the amounts and tax rates. There again is a statutory procedure we need to do so the county can assess taxes every year and stuff. So just normal stuff that you see every year, just timing and stuff sometimes is a little different. So other than that, we're good.
Any questions? All right. It's recommended by the Treasurer the Board of Education approve items 7B and 7C. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Weininger. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Melody. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Department of Academics and Student Learning.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you again this evening. No items for you to approve from our office this evening. Instead, I'd like to share with you a little bit about our Professional Development Day that we have on Friday. Again, we have a half professional development, half work day with our staff. We appreciate you incorporating these days into our calendar. There's a lot of learning that occurs during these days. This Friday will be no different. We have Dr. Tish Jennings, who is a recognized leader in the fields of social and emotional learning and mindfulness in education. She is also a professor at the University of Virginia. What she will be sharing with us on Friday is some of her research on mindful awareness as well as compassion practices in order to promote cognitive and emotional strengths that are necessary for building resiliency and also promoting well-being to improve conditions for learning. So we're really excited on Friday to learn a little bit more about protecting our own mindfulness so that our own staff is at their absolute best to help our students during this time. Also wanted to give you a little bit of a commercial for what you will be seeing at our next meeting on the 22nd. We are excited to present to you with our middle school principals, Jill Reinhardt and Tom McDonnell, the outcome of a study of about 2.5 years on our middle school schedule. We have some recommendations for a new schedule with additional courses that I think you will find are very rich in the experiences that they offer for students. We're looking forward to doing a little bit of a dress rehearsal with Mr. Harris and Mr. Weininger in the coming weeks so that they can ensure that we are answering any questions that you all may have about this middle school schedule, so we can be fully prepared for those on February 22nd. Any questions for me this evening? Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to Department of Operations. Mr. Stark.
I'm going to talk a little loudly here because I understand my microphone's not being picked up, and it's. I also want to make sure my compadre Gail Marsh can hear me. All right. We have 3 things for the board's review and approval tonight. The first is actually a really good story on something that started off as so not good. Is Carr Middle School has 2 boilers original to the building. They're made to work with each other as a redundancy. One blew out just a few weeks ago in the middle of winter. It just end of life. We decided to replace both, and instead of going for state term just to get it, we felt the other one can hold up, and we wanted to do a bid. If you look at what's on board docs, it's a healthy bid, 9 suppliers, and the swing, almost a $70,000 swing from lowest price to highest price for lowest responsible bidder. So this is a real nice savings for the district. We were able to work quickly. Special thanks out there to Kramer Engineering, who helped put together the specs, and Jeff Krause and the maintenance team, who really worked closely with them on the details of that. So tonight, what we're recommending to the board is that they approve the attached resolution to award Heat Total Facility Solutions a contract worth $180,929 for the work just described, and it also gives us a change order authority of 15% of the project value. The next item up for approval, and this is a design contract with Garmin and Miller for $8,650, and basically what Garmin will be doing for this year is putting together all the bid documents and scope documents to replace the wooden stage floor over at the Kaufman PAC, all the carpet at the Kaufman PAC, and a new commons floor for cells. So that's the flooring project there. And the last item is more procedural. Last summer, the board approved a 2020 facility lease agreement with the City of Dublin for our annual use of camps. And the way the facility agreement reads is that we charge them for 3 facilities, and it's very specific on that. Because of COVID-19, the city did not utilize all 3 of our schools. They only used 2 of them. And to make sure for compliance purposes for payment audit, we have to pay the invoice according to how the agreement is. The agreement is for 3 facilities. The amendment in front of you tonight allows us the flexibility to just pay for the 2 facilities. Moving forward, we'll build that flexibility into the agreement, but all these past years, it was never really a concern, but things have changed, so that's that procedural piece in front of you. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
If there's no questions at this time, it's recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve items 10A, 10B, and 10C. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second. Moved by Mr. Weininger, second by Mr. Harris. Questions, comments? Thank you. Call the roll.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Mr. Marsh, HR.
Good evening. Just a couple items to highlight on the HR agenda tonight. Under the certified agenda, there is one stipend for some curriculum work groups, and the annual curriculum review process, and that is in the areas of social studies and visual arts. So ask for your approval for that stipend tonight. Resignation and retirements on the certified side tonight. I want to thank and congratulate Maria Kaplan at Bailey Elementary for her 25 years of service to the district, and the retirement is on the agenda tonight, as well as Holly Hall from here at Emerald Campus, almost 35 years of service to the district. So thank you to those 2 educators for what they've done for our community and our students. Also, you'll notice a small change in supplementals, positions, recommended changes from our committee meeting, and the one is just a correction with regard to middle school choir, and also one regarding boys and girls middle school lacrosse. That is the highlighted items on the certified agenda tonight. On the classified agenda, again, a thank you to a couple of our employees, long-serving employees in the district, Peggy Kill, Jerome, High School Guidance Secretary, for serving our community for almost 25 years, and Elizabeth Talbot, Grizel Middle School Instructional Parapro, again, almost 20 years of service to the district. So thank you to both of those employees. Any questions this evening? Thank you.
It's recommended by the superintendent that the Board of Education approve items 12A, 12B. Is there a motion? Moved by
Second.
Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Weininger. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Office of Public Information, Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Just obviously tonight, we're going to be communicating heavily the resolution passed this evening by the board, as well as some of the items around the conversation around March 15th. So we'll begin that first thing in the morning. I want to share some non-COVID-19 items with you. For the rest of my report, Mr. Harris has a forthcoming Dublin Villager article on February 18th, so please look for that in that edition of the paper. So thank you, Mr. Harris, for writing about our teaching staff. Very well done. We are conducting a DCS virtual logo contest and branding program. We had 23 submissions from the community, from parents, students, and I think maybe a staff member or two as well. And so we're narrowing that down, and we're going through the process of branding Aaron Schulteis and Natalie's Dublin or DCS virtual program that I'll continue throughout this spring. And when we have a finished logo, I can bring and show it to the board. A couple of upcoming spring events I wanted to bring to your attention. PERC has a diversity and inclusion presentation on February 18th, 9:30 in the morning and 7 p.m. Community Champion nominations are open till February 22nd. That event will be virtual again this year like it was last year. We will launch the Summer Job Fair for students, again virtual this year, unfortunately, on April 10th. But we expect to have about 45, 50 local employers who hire students for the summer still involved in that, and so we're still going to move forward with that. And finally, I just want to close with putting in a plug for the Dublin City Schools app. We're up to about 8,393 downloads for Android and iPhone, and I would just encourage any members of the community who have not yet downloaded our app to do so, as we're going to be using it more and more going forward. That's my report. Thank you.
Items for board discussion.
I forgot to mention it during the board committee reports and stuff like that, but I believe it was maybe 2 weeks ago now, we conducted the tour of Eversole Run Middle School. The school's coming along great. It looks great. So congratulations to Mr. Stark and team for keeping that on track and bringing that along well. And then it also occurred to me while we were there that we never performed a groundbreaking for that facility. I don't know, it's well beyond that, but I don't know if there was any type of thoughts and ceremony that we wanted to do prior to the actual opening, or if we're just holding out for the opening at this point.
I would say maybe a more official ribbon cutting that involves the whole board. Hopefully COVID and we're all in a good place in August, but I echo your comments. The building looks wonderful, and it's really exciting to see that come along. So we could do a lot of different things on that. We have to, I think the word of the night is get creative. So we got to get creative on that. Thanks for joining. I know, Scott, you were a part of that. I think, Lynn, you were able to join in on that. Rick, you were a part of that, too. For Stu, for Chris, if you would like a tour at some point in time, Jeff's probably the person to reach out to directly there. And I know there's a mock classroom going to be in the next week, I think, finalized. So one classroom completely done.
And then just one other comment too, speaking of buildings and stuff like that. We also never, I don't think, circled back on formally naming the preschool. I didn't know if that's something we would like to bring forward at a future board meeting for discussion or not.
It's fine. I was thinking about it when I drove by this week. I was thinking about that too. I saw the sign.
I thought about it when I drove by tonight on the way here.
Any additional questions or comments? All right. Executive session. In accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, The Dublin Board of Education will go into executive session to consider 1DB employment of a public employer official. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weiniger. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May? Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Melody?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. There'll be no action after executive session. Thank you.